Larry tried to kill me.
Yeah. I was so thoroughly disgusted.
Let me think about it. Why does it make you special to do what you do?
Packers jumping around. They rush 4. Plenty of time for John. Now squeezes, steps up in the pocket. Elliott can run inside the 10. Head first. He dives off the 5-yard line. My goodness.
Rushing 4, ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground, and it's still on the ground. Picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line.
There's also Brian Clady and Bob Miller. Third and long 3. Going deep. Oh, and he's got Thomas. Goodbye. Touchdown.
Here we go. First snap of the overtime. The Broncos have been in 3 overtime games this year. They won them all. Got him at the 40. It's Thomas at the 50. Stiff arm got him 3 to the 30. To the 20. Thomas to the 10. Denver's going on the New England. They win it on the first play of overtime.
And welcome to the show. My name is Mundungus Creevy, a.k.a. the Bearded Blur, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Glenn Hauser, Mr. Boggins, and Cam Parker. And you are currently tuned into the 5280 podcast on the MHRT Network. We are a fan-led, Broncos-based podcast, filling you in on all things Denver Broncos. How's it going, fellas?
Doing well.
Say podcast game.
I don't podcast. Anytime I read it, I say it wrong until I think about it. But I hope that no one hears me say it wrong.
It's a good thing you're not the host of a podcast or anything.
All right, it's our Broncos based podcast, filling you in on all things.
Podcast.
Blur in his name is his brain, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, for the most part, yeah. So, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, as whenever his connection is bad, it's actually just brain waves.
Pretty much. It's just kicking in. So we go 2-0 at home. We're now 2-1. Yay!
Hey!
That was okay.
Hey, it's nice. We did it.
It was an interesting game. So we didn't see a lot of offense, but we saw a whole lot of defense in that game.
Mm-hmm. That we did. But we also saw offense when we needed it the most. And that was, so I mean, yeah. So probably the best way to like describe it was that was like the perfect flashback to either a 2011 game or a 2015 game. Like defense is just carrying us the entire way, but the offense made the drive that they needed to win the game. And but it was a lot of fun, and hats off to San Francisco. They that defense played absolutely incredible. And yeah, it's hats off to them, but also hats off to Ejiro Evero for once again calling an unbelievable game plan. And proving, we'll probably talk about it, right? But proving that the Broncos are not number 3 as far as best defense in the National Football League, not number 2, but number 1.
You built that up so well.
Yeah.
Like not number 3.
I was hoping you'd start from like 7. Not 7, not 6, not even 5, not even 4. Yeah,
like the opposite of LeBron when he's talking about the championship.
Yeah, it was a very interesting game. I'm glad we squeaked out with a win because of our insane defense and our trust in the defense to close it out at the end instead of going for a 4th and manageable. I definitely thought they were going to go for that. They decided not to, and just to put it in the hands of our defense once again. You're like, no, you know what? You guys are playing real good. Do it again.
Yeah.
and
the new was it the new guy Rosburg actually said they should punt it, but Hackett wanted to go for it.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I mean, I guess statistically, because your defense is doing great, sure. And they did. They pulled. They were on fire and they pulled out. But my God, is that just asking? This is the reason there was like kind of like a tear in the locker room at one point in the past, where there was like the defense just felt like they had to do everything.
Mhm.
Like let's not go down that road too deep. Like the offense still has to figure it out. I think they still will figure it out. Russell needs to find out that there's more than a fourth quarter, because he did this in Seattle too sometimes, where it was just like it was kind of like saying it. Fourth quarter, boom. And we need more than the fourth quarter consistently. And I hope that this is just like a little slow progression here, and that maybe, coming up soon, it'll start booming a little bit. The Raiders are a team that we'll talk about in a little bit that may give us a decent chance to get a third win.
And think about this defense is playing this well, and Justin Simmons has been out the last 2 games.
Yeah,
I mean, just dominating.
Well, and not just that, but they happen to be 2-1, and they might be getting Quinn Miners back in the lineup, which, I mean, it's a big deal. So, I mean, for all intents and purposes,
get like 7 touchdowns this year.
So, I mean, like, for all intents and purposes, the Broncos were pretty good with that record, to go
Just
2-1
right over it.
Like the key injuries that they had.
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to agree that DJ Jones and Randy Gregory on this team was probably the best offseason signings ever. Like DJ Jones and Mike Purcell. And Mike Purcell disappeared last year. Okay, this year. Best signings this year. Not ever. Best signings this year.
Never.
You did say ever.
Yeah, not ever. This year. This year. But like
your
Mike
ever
Purcell,
sounded like
Peyton
ever.
might object to that, but
ever this year.
Okay.
But like Mike Purcell disappeared last year, and I would say he had a breakout game in the game last night. I mean, he was incredible.
Yeah.
Same thing with DJ Jones. Josie Jewell came back and tore it up.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and it helps when you're just stacked all the way around. Like I kept looking at it's interesting when you don't have a defense like we do, where you look at these certain players that are just standouts, where you're just like, oh my God, if that player's in, and then you kind of look at the little fills, right? Well, you just looked at it last night and you're just like, oh my God. Just like every single one of them is just insanely talented. And it's just really cool to see how much they can complement each other. That like, well, you got to deal with Bradley Chubb and you can't double team him because you got Randy Gregory on the other side, and you can't press out because you got Draymond right inside and then you got DJ Jones there. And then you got like, it's just like, what do you do? Like you have, the only thing you can do is just have an insane offensive line, because we weren't necessarily getting home as much as we'd like to earlier. But in this last game, it seemed like we were actually able to close the deal this game. And it's just so nice to see. And Josie, like you were saying, Josie out there was just a revelation. I just like, because like all the people that talk so much crap about him are just like, oh, we need new inside linebackers, blah, 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 blah. No. Well, Josie is solid. And who got the interception?
Jonas
Griffith. So fuck it, Broncos country.
What's going on here?
But I'm
not sure if that was an S with a lisp or like an F. I'm trying to decide which one that was.
Fuck it, Broncos country.
He's got Sylvester suffering succotash over here.
Our listeners will be the judge of that one. Yeah.
What listeners? No, I'm just kidding.
Wow.
Shots fired. But no, the Mike Purcell thing is
I quit.
the Mike Purcell thing is awesome because it's like, here's a guy that to Mike's point, I mean, he didn't play great, but he was injured. Like he was injured, and so I think that people, I think, had a tendency to forget just how good Purcell was when healthy. And now you put him with DJ Jones and you have, excuse me, you have maybe one of the most formidable defensive lines up front with Purcell and Jones and Draymond Jones. And that's everything that we had projected it could be if Purcell was healthy. And now that he is, excuse me, we're seeing we're seeing it come to fruition. And, and then not only that, but like you're seeing like Randy Gregory, just absolutely just blow onto the screen in the first, 3 games. And I think that the best thing that I can say about Randy Gregory, and so maybe for this regard, he's Batman to Chubb's Robin, but it's just, I think that Randy Gregory has brought a killer instinct to this pass rush. And that killer instinct has been, feeding off to Bradley Chubb. And now Chubb is basically playing with that killer instinct that he had in his rookie season. And we're seeing a dynamic duo that is playing at a all-time high right now. And, that was one of the other key talking points even before the season was we weren't sure what the pass rush duo was going to consist of, but we did have an idea that it was probably a boom or bust unit.
Yeah. And one of the things with Chubb, even the other night, is, and it's been Orlovsky pushed aside because of the whole Jimmy G stepping out of the end zone, but on that play, Bradley intercepted a pass and it was a pick 6. I mean, that was one heel or 1 foot, outside the end zone away from being 7 points. I mean, just the awareness, he looks so energized, it's exciting, and hopefully these guys can stay healthy and continue to grow as a unit because it is really, really fun to watch.
Well, I think they should be able to allow coaches or teams to decide, can I decline the penalty and accept the interception and the touchdown?
But it's not a penalty though.
That should be doesn't
The
matter.
play was
They should
dead
be
at
able
that
to
point,
decline.
right?
But no, I have 2 questions before we move on to the not so good parts of the game. Do we have the best pass rushing duo in Gregory and Chubb? And is Pat Surtain the best corner in the league right now?
Wait, in the league, wait for the pass rushing
league.
duo in the league right now.
Yep.
I'm trying to think who would.
Oh yeah, I'd have to think about that.
Well, we know it's not Chandler Jones, and
Yeah,
Matt
it's not
Scott Chandler hasn't
know.
done jack.
That's crazy. Right now, maybe I like off the top of my head, I'm trying to think of.
Well, and that's what I was doing beforehand, and I don't think there is anybody else.
Maybe Dexter Lawrence and Michael Parsons in Dallas.
Oh yeah,
but I mean,
yeah.
Okay,
but no, I would definitely say that even I would
Dexter
say that
Lawrence.
Or I mean, DeMarcus Lawrence. There's a lot of Lawrences, right?
It's Dexter
There's a lot
to
of
the
there's a lot of there's even more Dexters.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, no, I think that they are definitely in that top 3. But again, it goes back to I think that everything that we're seeing is one of the reasons why the Dallas Cowboys wanted to hold on to Gregory. And so we talked about the Cowboys having maybe a better pass rush. I would imagine they're sort of, at least early on, smiling ear to ear, knowing the fact that they are seeing what they have, with DeMarcus Lawrence and Michael Parsons, but the fact that they're seeing what Gregory's doing, it also sort of confirms to them why they even went after Gregory to re-sign him too. So yeah, to the Pat Surtain comment, or just even about him being, number 1, I don't, maybe it's just a clear bias within the first few weeks, or just even with his, a season and 3 games, but he's every good as advertised coming into the National Football League, which is everything even execs and draft experts said about Pat Surtain, was that he was a can't miss prospect, and he's taking it just 2 steps further now.
Can you imagine if we had taken Justin Fields and then we're witnessing Pat Surtain's talents on another team? What could have happened?
Yeah. Well, and the interesting thing was, and this is also kudos to Evero and the rest of the defense, but it's like we were speculating. I think Boggins and I were talking about this, but it was just like, what do you do with Surtain? Do you have him just follow Deebo Samuel the entire game? But instead, he was on Ayuk, he was on Deebo, he was on all these weapons, but he never allowed a single catch. And yet he still received a 73.7 grade on Pro Football Focus because that's trash. Anyway, but I think that, for Surtain, it just continues to prove one more time again, that like he just fits every single scheme. And I think that's the most important thing about Surtain is like he fits any sort of scheme that throws your way. And granted, there wasn't much of a transition from Fangio to Evero, but it's like you could put him in any sort of defense and he will be a number 3, 4, 2 or 1 corner in the National Football League. He is just that good.
Yeah, I don't think either is the best in the league currently, but I think I think I would listen to a debate about it. I think that the fact that we can have a conversation about it is praise enough to like, it's just, they have been playing so well, both Randy Gregory and Bradley Chubb so far, and Pat Surtain is being Pat Surtain, my current favorite player in the league, the one that I said wasn't a scheme fit. And so I was questioning whether or not the Broncos would take a risk on it. And then Fangio was like, yeah, sometimes you just don't look at scheme fit when you're drafting a quarterback. You just look at the overall talent. And I was like, you son of a... but I'm glad I was completely wrong. I was glad I was completely wrong about Justin Fields as well. I just think we're just so lucky to have all of them. Just looking around. God, that was one thing. I was watching like the highlights again from last night's game. And it was just like so much about the defensive line. And then the next clip was Pat Surtain breaking up a pass. And you're like, oh, yeah, the secondary, too. And you're just like, oh, gosh. Just like Surtain, Roby, Williams, just like all doing their thing. Stern stepping in super well. K-Jack coming out of nowhere, having himself a game.
PJ.
Just like, man, what a great team so far. Or it's like great defense so far.
And you look at Buffalo and what happened in their secondary. They're just decimated. Mm-hmm. The 4 starters had a combined 3 starts going into the game the other day. And that's going to be a real problem for them moving forward because a number of these guys are gone for the year. Mm-hmm. And when you look at the depth that the Broncos presently have in the secondary and how everybody's contributing. I mean, that play at the end, PJ Locke. I mean, that was,
oh man,
it was incredible. Yeah. I mean, the 2 turnovers in the last like 2.5 minutes, our secondary is just so strong. When the offense catches up, it is going to be just an absolute delight to watch this whole team.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he did.
It.
Yes, he did.
I always do that.
It's okay. We all fail at something.
I always do that with Darby and Roby. I don't know what it is with my brain. I cannot every single time.
They definitely don't look alike.
No, yeah, they definitely don't.
So to kind of so we looked at the defense. I mean, there's not really a whole lot of bad you can say about the defense because the performance they put on was outstanding. But then you look over at the offense, and there's some issues. I say we start with the offensive line. I think that's kind of where things start. I don't really have an issue with the left side as much as the right side, and then Cushenberry at center. But the right side was getting blown up all night.
Mm-hmm. But I got to tell you, I think that's also kudos to the 49ers defense, though.
Yeah.
Because that is like I mean, of all the teams that they faced within the first 3 weeks, the 49ers were the toughest defense that they.
I mean, for Nick Bosa against Cameron Fleming and Russell Wilson, how many sacks? How many sacks did they get
on Russ?
Yeah,
3, wasn't it?
I don't know. I'll have to look it up.
I'll look up while you continue your point.
Yeah, but it's just like it wasn't insane, and that's surprising because Nick Bosa is one of the best pass rushers in the league. So, I mean, in all honesty, I don't think they did insanely bad. We've been over 100 yards rushing each game so far. Russ has had time, and then other times it has absolutely crashed on him. But Russ has had time and just pulled away. And I think that's just still getting used to the scheme. I think once the team is very familiar with the scheme, that makes reads happen a lot quicker, which makes an offensive line look a lot better when a quarterback's getting that ball out faster.
Yeah. And one of the things that I was going to say is, now granted, it was giving me a headache. But when you utilize your running backs, you're trying to do everything possible to neutralize the pass rush, and the linebackers for San Francisco and even some of the safeties were getting, to the point with those running backs like immediately. So even the plays that were happening after the catch weren't happening, because by the time the pass got there, the 49ers, secondary or part of their front seven was already there. And so that's just a huge testament to the 49ers. But I think that for the Broncos offense, I think that the one thing that did kind of give me a headache was they were utilizing the running backs a little bit, and they weren't, having those designed roles with, Russ. And I know he didn't hit that pass. He should have hit that pass, and the blame should go on Russ on that play, not Judy with the tip on his hands, but I mean, I'm surprised that those plays haven't happened as much, like some of those rollouts, those easy completions, for Russ, to potentially even, help out on some of those, pass rush stuff. So I'm a little bit surprised we haven't seen some of that, but yeah, I mean, overall, I still think it's more about the San Francisco 49ers defense, not to say the Broncos aren't having woes, per se still early on in miscommunication, but I think overall, it was more about 49ers defense.
So Boggins, just to give you the stats, there were 4 sacks by the Niners and 7 tackles for loss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, some of that was definitely on Russ. Definitely some of the times where he should have stepped or he shouldn't have stepped. I was watching the Jenkins breakdown, and there was times where he should have just hit quick to his check down and decided to step up instead, and I was on Russ. That comes with more time in the offense.
Yeah, and I know there was one sack where he backed into it. I think it was Bosa coming around the right side. He just kind of stepped back right into it. But
Russ didn't walk out of the back of the end zone, though. So that's
true. Good. But another thing that I wasn't expecting as much is the inaccuracy we've seen from Russ. I mean, he's averaging 58, 59% on his throws. I wasn't quite understanding that. Is there a way to fix that? Is it a scheme thing? Is it a rushing to throw the ball thing? Is it a miscommunication? Like, why is he being so inaccurate?
I think some of it, I mean, it just depends on which one we're talking about. Because I think some of them, I mean, like we're obviously guessing here, right? But some of them I think could be timing issues, chemistry issues, where they're like the one Judy running towards out of bounds. Maybe it was, I mean, that one was just thrown high, I guess. But some situations like that where he would expect the receiver to maybe slow down a little bit, going to the sideline, or sit in zone coverage, and they don't. He's trying to put it in a place that is only able for his receiver to get the ball. And if you're not absolutely on the same page, that's just going to look off sometimes. But some of them were bad. Like the throw in the dirt to Alberto seemed like it slipped out or something like that. It just didn't do what he wanted it to. But yeah, I definitely think it's something that will get better before it'll get worse.
So, Mike, he is at 59.4 for percentage this year. His career is 64.9. So he's about 5% less completion in 3 games this year. So not too far off.
Well, and is it because he's trying to stick in the pocket more, become more of a pocket passer, and just not wanting to run, or that's not what the scheme calls for? It's not what the plays call for. Because it seems like he's more accurate when he's on the run.
You don't hear this very, very often, but I think Colin Coward actually had a good point. He was talking about Russ being a little too catering to the new coach, like trying to, be a good little boy and, show that he is open to learning, like Hackett's offense, doing what Hackett wants, blah, blah, blah. But at a certain point, he's Russell Wilson, and you got to be like, okay, I respect that, but listen, how about this? We got to do this, or I got to do it my way, certain thing. Like you start to get comfortable with someone enough where then you're like, okay, cool. Well, I've listened to all your ways. Now, how about this? How about we do this way? Because I'm really good at this, and let's, you know what I mean? So I think that's just something that you grow into and you learn a little bit of. We're still 3 games in, and we're 2-1.
Yeah.
Like and it's still Russell Wilson. Everybody's talking about, Russell Wilson is bad. He's not worse than Teddy Bridgewater. I don't care how bad Russell Wilson is now.
Right.
He's not worse than Teddy Bridgewater or Drew Lock, straight up. So they will figure it out. They will score points. It's just a matter of time, and people need to calm down. RELAX.
Well, there's one thing that Sayer Benninger has been talking about, and he brought it up on Twitter. He thinks we should go and sign some new pass catchers. Is it
what?
Well, and it's the same thing. Like Glenn and I talked about it on the postgame show. Like, are we overrating some of our receivers, or do we just need to give them time? Sutton, obviously he's fine, but like we haven't seen Virgil yet. Washington hasn't really caught anything yet. We didn't see anything from a Hamler in the last game.
At this particular point in the season, you would have to be bringing in, a player that would be familiar with Russ, or someone who's a veteran wide receiver, that you at least, trust right out of the gate to, come right in and, call it like a mid-season acquisition. That's a trade, right? I mean, almost kind of like almost in that vein. But like the one that sort of comes to mind would be like a T.Y. Hilton. Do you trust T.Y. Hilton to come into this team and, be able to, put, a lot of the, the plays, right out of the gate? And do you trust something like that? Obviously, the Broncos still have a very talented room. It's just, they do. They have a very talented room. And I think that, to Boggan's point, it's just a matter of, I think, the chemistry that's happening all across the board with Hackett and Russ and that wide receiver room. And so I think that at some point that it will end up getting, to where it needs to be, to where he's not being featured of just Cortland Sutton in the running back room. It'll be Sutton. It'll be actually everything that we saw from the Seattle game, right? I mean, which was basically Judy and Sutton and, the tight ends. And, another talking point, I think, is we're also going to be getting to the point where Greg Dulcich is going to be available.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Kenny Golladay would be a great.
Stop it.
Never mind.
No,
I'm just playing.
Yeah, I think we do miss Tim Patrick, though. I do think Tim Patrick is probably the second best receiver on this team. I do think people's infatuation with Jerry Jeudy, as far as he's insanely polarizing. Either people love him or they hate him, and it's just or just accept him for what he is. He's just he's a solid receiver. That's what he's produced as so far. He does have his drops sometime. So does CeeDee Lamb. I don't know why everybody's oh my God, CeeDee Lamb, who also drops the balls. So does Jerry Jeudy. So it's I don't know what to tell you. But I at this point, maybe. maybe depending on how Russ sees it, because I think you want to cater to what Russ needs. And if he needs another big receiver on the outside,
Agree.
that might be something that you need to get him, like Denzel Mims or something. But I do think we have enough talent there. It just kind of really depends on your quarterback and what he feels he needs, and you need to supply him with what he feels that he needs.
So Big E Broncos mentioned Chase Claypool in the thread a couple times.
I don't want Chase Claypool.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Well, and you talked about using Dulcich when he
We also
comes
don't
back.
have picks. Picks?
One of the reasons why we didn't see a whole lot of tight ends catching the ball in the game against the Niners is because they were blocking. Because the offensive line, because that front
12
seven
personnel,
for the
baby.
Niners, holy crap! Like they had the tight
man.
ends blocking for most of the game. So
Do you know what we also saw during the game? Goal line package.
Well, and one of the things I was gonna say is one of the bright spots, kind of the offense is running backs. Like Javonte Williams, his vision is so much better than last year. He finds a hole, he cuts, he makes it, he gets there.
I know it's so much better, but
Melvin Gordon had 3 fumbles in the Niners game. 3. He lost 1, had 3.
Yep. And it's par for the course for every talking point that we've had about Melvin Gordon. It's not so much about him as a runner.
Mm-hmm.
It's never been about Melvin Gordon as a running back.
Mm-hmm.
It's been about the fumbles and everything that happened. And we would be looking at a drive differently, if Russ didn't recover up that fumble. I mean, we would be looking at something completely different because the 49ers should be in the red zone, So I do think, to Rich's, question, I do think you do see Mike Boone at some point.
You can hold up 2 fingers all you want. It was 3.
All right. Check your text.
I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think that Melvin Gordon is still a better running back. I think it's just comparing what you get out of him to, like, you still get a certain amount of yardage out of him in big moments and touchdowns and receiving yards as well. And he fumbles every now and again. Like this year, he fumbled 3 times. He did he lose? He lost one yesterday. I thought he got both of them. He fumbled twice and got both of them back.
No, fumbled twice, lost, recovered one. Oh, so you did open your text.
I'm just not acknowledging it.
But his percentage, Boggins, of scoring at at the goal line is way higher, like surprisingly higher. I think I saw something like Javonte scores 22% of the time at the goal line, which is shocking.
He's got better vision. Like Javonte got that boom, but at the end of the day, if you see your lane, and you know how to attack it. So that's what Melvin does, and sometimes he doesn't hold the ball very great. But it's kind of like Shady McCoy. Like obviously he needed to hold on to the ball, but he's still Shady McCoy, and you're still going to give him the ball. You're not like, oh, let's trade Shady McCoy. It's freaking Shady McCoy. So
he's not the president of the Eric Bieniemy fan club, by the way.
No.
Wow.
So do we know what's been plaguing the Broncos offense in the red zone? I mean, they were able to get a score.
Play call.
Play call is what it is?
Yeah.
Play call and turnovers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then court's penalty. I mean, I'm just bringing us back to week 1, but I mean, those were the 3 most things.
I guess if we go, I would say the main was play calling. Then the other one was offensive line penetration, as far as or just not knowing the play call and backing into your running back, which prevents him from making the push and then fumbling as well. And then the Melvin Gordon fumble on the goal line there was because they weren't able to get into the end zone the prior 3 opportunities. Right. So it's just like a lot of factors, but I think overall play calling was a big factor. And it's crazy that once they actually use a goal line package that they get in the end zone. It's weird. Under center. It's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, no, let's put him in draw. You're not. It's not Josh Allen. It's not Josh Allen. Like Josh Allen would like you could draw with Josh Allen just because you can give him the option, and then he could just like run and backflip over everybody into the end zone. That's Russ isn't that guy. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Did you see Melvin's tweet today about showing the touchdown, but you were seeing Dalton running off the field, like doing this big jump in the air and like, heel click together. Like, and Melvin was saying it's so cool that, when a teammate is happy for you, your success.
What is it? Melvin Gordon is not better than who? Who said Melvin Gordon?
I think he's
better?
talking about he's not better than Javonte.
Oh,
so the little thing about Melvin Gordon, what we were talking about with the end zone, he has 54 total touchdowns on his career. 54. So again, like it is nothing to do with his ability as a runner. And so I mean, and I think for even some of the people that want Javonte, maybe myself included, I can kind of put myself into there. But I mean, as far as even on goal line, there is a reason why Gordon is on those goal line plays, and it's because he can get into the end zone. He's had 10 touchdowns twice, and in every single year except for his rookie year, he's had 8 touchdowns, 9 touchdowns, 8 touchdowns, 10, 8, and 10. Yeah, he belongs in the end zone.
Yeah,
and also his fumble at Seattle, that was a 4th down play also. So it's like we tend to forget he was reaching because it didn't matter what ended up happening. If he got tackled short, if he fumbled the ball, it was 4th down. So he needed to do whatever he could to get into the end zone, and it fell short. But once again, there's that narrative that all he does is fumble. You think of the play against the Eagles. I mean, I've said that like Andre the Giant would have fumbled that ball. Like there was just no blocking the Eagles' charge there. There was no chance. So I do feel like he gets a bad rap, and it's a nice tandem.
Yeah, so, he does fumble, but he also gets yards and touchdowns more than he fumbles.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that.
Yeah. So let's put a little bow on this 49ers win and go with player of the game. Now I have 4 options if you want them, or you can come up with your own.
Let's hear your options.
I put down Chubb, Jewel, Surtain, and Gregory.
Okay.
I'm going to say Corliss Whiteman.
Corliss Whiteman. There you go. Hey, he's been pretty consistent.
Punted 10 times and put it inside the 20 like 6 or 7 of the times. Like, good for you. Good for you. Like, good, for first season with the team, showing off after we got rid of Brent. Sam Martin. Man, sorry about
Definitely
that.
not Brent Kern. Definitely not Brent Kern.
Brent Kern?
I thought you were going to say Bradley Martin there for a second. I was like, no,
one of them. After we got rid of Sam Martin, he's showing out. It's been great. And kudos to him, man.
What did Peyton and them and Hackett say? The reason why when they gave it to Waitman, it's because he won the job.
I thought you were going to be able to say what Eli said about Russ. I was like,
no, and just because he won the job, and he was definitely one of the MVPs and player of the games.
Yeah.
I would agree with your list.
My list,
well, anybody's list that has Waitman and the one that but I would include some of the names that Mike mentioned. Obviously, Waitman, but I think that even some of the I would actually say turnovers. Were the turnovers and recovering those turnovers were, I think a big part of this game. The Broncos had the ability to force turnovers. They had the ability to force turnovers in some of these games that they had. The bounces weren't going their way, and so mine isn't necessarily say a player, but it's the ability to force a turnover and get those turnovers. So maybe for that vein, I'll give PJ Law credit because you put the nail in the coffin on an absolutely heads up play where it looked like he was out of the picture and, ran behind Jeff Wilson and, punched the ball out. So, I mean, yeah, I would say turnovers.
PJ, which is not a person, but anyway, so breaking the rules. PJ Locke in the 6 looks incredible, by the way. I love that number. I'm going to have to go with Josie. All those guys are valid. And quite honestly, the entire defense got game balls. I don't know if you guys heard that.
They should.
But I think I'm going with Josie. He had the most tackles. He had a sack. Some other strong statistics, but he hadn't played a game in some time. So for him to return to action and play out like that, I got to give it to him.
And he's probably play calling, huh? So completely.
Yeah. And the other, it was funny. We were talking about Waitman. Everybody but Brandon McManus on special teams deserves a game ball. Like, I mean, the special teams coverage on kickoffs were fantastic. Even the punt coverage, and Alex Singleton looks like truly a special teams ace on special teams, which is everything we had sort of envisioned, even for Singleton coming into the, with this team. But like, to see how well it was even against the 49ers in a game that we all know, or 49ers have maybe one of the best special teams units in the National Football League. It was great. And I love Josie's, I think someone asked Josie after the game, he asked him, did this game remind you of anything? And, and I think without batting an eye, he said Iowa and Wisconsin, which I thought was great. Cause like that definitely felt like a Big Ten game. And not only that, but like an NFC West game. But it's funny, we talked about Surtain and him being the player of the game. Frankly, I think he is the player of the game. It's kudos to him, because I mean, it's like, I think one of the reasons when we talked about him being in the conversation of the top flight corners in the National Football League, this is a kind of game that will thrust you into that, coming into the game injured, like or from an injury, and then balling out on a game when you were previously injured. So, I mean, it's just, it's one of those things, like, when you play at such a high level coming back from an injury, it really boasts your entire confidence for not just yourself, but the entire defense.
Yeah. You said thrust. Okay. So sorry, I had to, going into the Raiders game, which is coming up next. It's in Las Vegas. And I know Boggins had said that we should be not overlooking the Raiders because it could be a trap game. Mm-hmm. Could this be a trap game?
100%. 100%.
I feel like every game could be a trap game, but I think Boggins is right.
I think the Raiders are coming off being obviously pissed off that they're 0-3. Josh McDaniels is probably even more pissed off, and knowing he's going into the only other team he's head coached for, and knowing how badly that went, you don't think that he would like to maybe win against that team to prove whatever he needs to prove to himself against the Broncos in their own home stadium. Not the Broncos home stadium, but in Las Vegas, like amongst his fans, to prove something. This has to be some sort of like, he's going to be pep talking the shiz out of everybody. She's like, we got to get the Broncos. That's what he sounds like in my head.
And is it that because they came out earlier, they said that he's not going to be available to the press all week, or he's just not doing a press conference, or because it sounded like we weren't going to have access to him at all in press conferences. There's a camera there, Glenn. Don't hit it.
I got excited.
That was my reaction entirely.
Yeah. Coaches can decline to meet with the visiting team or the opposing team's press during the week. Pete Carroll skipped it. I have not heard about Daniels, but I mean, what an opportunity the Broncos have here is with the Raiders 0-3. The chances that they're going to make the playoffs at this point are so slim based on NFL history. If the Broncos can knock them off and put them at 0-4, they pretty much are for all intents and purposes, are killing the Raiders season not even a quarter of the way in. I mean, that would be spectacular.
Also, something to think about is that we play the Raiders, who we can. I mean, if there's a decent chance that we get the W there, and the Chiefs play the Bucks, who are a definitely tougher team. I know that they had a tough time against against Green Bay this last week, but like still, there's the Bucks.
Respond too.
They're like, so we could potentially be in first place, like undisputed first place after this next week if we don't overlook the Raiders.
Yeah, and if you look down at the bottom, I've got all the rankings for the AFC West. The Chiefs are in first, but that's because they got a division win. Other than that, I believe
a few more points.
Yeah, a few more points. But we've got less points allowed, so.
Have you seen the meme that said that started going around this week where it referenced that Bill Belichick had not named a new offensive coordinator because he knew that Josh McDaniels would be back in a few weeks?
That's funny.
That's rough.
Yeah.
Aren't they glad that Josh McDaniels, or the Colts glad that Josh McDaniels got off that plane?
Oh man.
Yeah.
Man. Biggie Bronco asks if Billy Turner is going to be back this week, because that should be good for the run game for both the running backs, because the Raiders can't stop a nosebleed, and they really can't.
I got to be honest with you. I'm pretty dumbfounded about what's going on with Billy Turner. Because there was, I think at one point he was a healthy practice for a few straight days, and then he doesn't play. And then he's inactive. And the only thing that I can really probably speculate is there something going on behind closed doors that we don't know about, with Billy Turner. And I don't know what that is. I don't, but like, when you are able to be a healthy practice, for a full participant for 2 or 3 straight days, and you're not playing, something else to me is going on with Billy Turner.
I think it's a conditioning thing, Cam, that he's not in playing shape, or at least he had not been up to this point. That's my speculation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is there some point to where we would see Calvin Anderson go out at right if we can't have Turner? Or do we stick with Fleming?
I think they're pretty solid with Cam Fleming. Cam Fleming didn't do terrible against Nick Bosa, like 4 sacks total, and like it's fine. It's okay. Yeah, and I mean, we'll see when Billy Turner plays, if he does it at all in the Broncos uniform again. We'll see, but I definitely think that's going to be something we're going to be heavily looking into finally in the offseason, especially when you have Russell Wilson back there. Might be something you need to think about.
And I was talking to Glenn last night. I said, you know what? How much, it was either last night or today, I was like, you know what? How much does Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers miss each other right now?
Yeah.
The Packers aren't great, and Devontae Adams is on an 0-3 team and not looking any better.
Yeah.
I think he probably likes Derek Carr a lot more.
Well, yeah. Biggie says if they lose this week,
seems less crazy. Less crazy. Let's go.
Biggie says if they lose this week, how long do you give it before he throws Derek Carr under the bus? Josh McDaniels.
I maybe he'll do the opposite of what he did with us. He'll lose 8 straight games and then win. Oh no, that's different now. Lose 9 straight games and then win 8 straight games after that, which will just not matter, and he'll get fired again. And then he'll trade his best player. He'll trade Devontae Adams again to move up and draft.
Mark Davis is like, check McDaniel's emails and see if there's anything we can fire him for.
But I gotta say, it would actually be quite hilarious if the reverse happened and he was still fired. So I mean, because that sort of happened, right? Like they have Derek Carr, on like an extension. They extended Waller. They obviously signed Adams through the long lengthy extension. So he's doing everything that he should have done in Denver, but it would be quite funny if, yet he still can't, get over the fact that, and get into the playoffs and, accomplish the thing, down the line to potentially even get fired. I think that would be actually,
I mean,
almost poetic.
Al Davis was always known for drafting the fastest
Mhm.
players he could find. Mark Davis is just good at hiring the fastest to get fired.
But I gotta say, I don't know about you guys.
Anybody?
I was gonna say, I don't know about you guys, but I'm really excited. I was gonna say, I don't know about you guys, but I'm really excited for the Trayvon Mullen and Cortland Sutton matchup. Oh wait, Trayvon Mullen's gone.
That's true. Good one. Who's I really want to see
snap.
Pat Surtain versus Devontae Adams is going to be so good.
Now,
I can't wait to see it.
They don't normally have one guy shadow another guy all game. It's whatever side.
They
do they?
He followed DK pretty heavily. So I wouldn't be surprised when you have a receiver of that caliber. So
was he on Ayuk then a lot? Because like Debo ended up being on like Josie Jewell was covering at one point.
Well, because Debo, they would line him up at halfback. Right. That's why Josie
right,
Jewell.
But that's what I'm saying. Like he's not shadowing
do that with
a
Devontae
specific
Adams.
player. Okay.
They're not going to do that with Devontae
Ayuk a lot.
Yeah.
So just going back to McDaniels for a quick minute, do you think that Rich Bisaccia is enjoying what's going on right now?
Yeah.
I mean, isn't he in Green Bay? So I mean,
special team coach in Green Bay.
Yeah.
I mean, fastest to get fired, but you got to beat Urban Meyer's record on that one.
Touche.
Yeah, I know.
Touche.
So, what is the key?
Does McDaniels own a steakhouse?
Jeez. Oh, okay. So what is the key to the Broncos beating the Raiders on Sunday?
Scoring points.
Yes.
Scoring touchdowns. Please get in the red zone and score. You don't even have to be in the red zone. You can score from outside the 20. That's fine. Right. Just score. Score points.
And this would be the defense to figure it out against, right? Like,
yes,
we're not going to see another defense like the Niners for months.
Raiders will not be able to keep up because of our defense is solid. Like, they should not be able to keep up if we are able to score, take advantage of their lame, like, secondary, and just like take advantage of it. Like, we need things to click now. Otherwise, it's going to be a really it's just gonna be a game that's gonna piss all of us off because it's gonna be really frustrating, and we never want to lose to the Raiders, even though we have a lot lately. And I just want to come on.
Obviously, it was nice to get off the schneid, and score in the red zone against the 49ers. But, the Raiders. But anyway.
Well, you can't go fast. Tell me what the schneid is.
It's, the Schneid, the saying, get off your high horse and, do something about it.
No, the schneid means like your things are going bad. And so a losing streak or a bad streak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you get off the schneid.
Yeah. Anyway, but
so is it losing streak or a horse? Which one are we talking about here?
It's a Thunder reference.
I'm talking about the red zone offense getting off the schneid.
Oh, my bad.
Didn't Urban Meyer get off the schneid?
That was,
someone else's schneid.
On a park but the point I'm trying to make, the point I was just trying to make is just that I think that for, this is a game where you can, get off the schneid of being a red zone offense. Like, you scored, 1 of 1 against San Fran, but the Raiders are 30th, I believe, in red zone defense. So, I mean, you should statistically be able to score on the Raiders once you're in the red zone. And so, yes, I do think points and scoring, it sounds obvious, but that it needs to happen defensively. I know there's a new staff in place, but one of the biggest things that I have to say about the Broncos and always facing Derek Carr is get pressure on Derek Carr and, obviously, keep everything in front of you. But at the same time, it's like you have to be able to pressure Carr first. And if they can be able to create that pressure on Derek Carr, you aren't going to have that same efficient, Derek Carr that we had seen over the years. Because let's be completely honest. If there's one team within the AFC West that Derek Carr has his number on, it's the Denver Broncos. Like, he is one of the most efficient quarterbacks when he plays the Denver Broncos. And so if they can create that type of pressure on Derek Carr, I think that, Carr will have a long day.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of the defense, kind of making one last point, how good is Evero at second half adjustments?
He's ridiculous. Holy
crap.
Yeah. You know what's good? It's going to be really fun to watch. Maybe not next year. God, I hope not. But I if this keeps up, I am excited to see him as a head coach someday, and same with D'Amico Ryans. Like, both of them are very, very, very impressive, and I am super excited to see what team they can get a hold of. Hopefully not the Raiders.
Yeah, no.
God, hopefully not.
Yeah, no. So, yeah, that is our coverage of the Niners game and looking at the Raiders game. I did want to bring one little piece of NFL news before we left.
What's
the
that?
Pro Bowl is out. There's no more Pro Bowl the way it has been. It's now been replaced by events and a flag football game.
As it should be.
Yeah.
As it should be. So,
Peyton said even maybe a beer chugging contest. He said he's
Make it with offensive linemen.
Yeah, the skills competition is fun. Like,
and Jason Kelsey was like eating contests for offensive and defensive linemen. Like, let's do that.
That sounds great.
Right?
Sounds hilarious.
I mean, dodgeball has been the best thing about the Pro Bowl for the last couple of years.
I don't want to. No one wants to watch them like the best players in the NFL half-ass play football. No one wants to watch that.
Yeah,
and then get a truck at the end of
it. Yeah. So that is going to about do it for us. We want to thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, turn on notifications so you can know when we post, when we go live. Also, make sure you tune into our other podcasts, the Wild Wild West podcast on Wednesday at 7:30, 6:30, 5:30, 4:30, and Broncos Breakdown Bronco Bill every Friday at 8, 7, 6, 5. We have The Neighborhood, which is play-by-play with Jeremy Case, and then random people from MHRT, mostly me and Glenn, with some special guests and Bill, are on the halftime postgame show. We also have the Cluster Puck podcast, which is an Avalanche-based podcast starting on Monday. So make sure you check that out
one of these days.
Well. I really am, but I'm trying my best not to. I'm holding off. I can't even say podcast right. So eventually I'll mess it up.
Look, there's kids in the chat. Like, look, Muhammad is
one of them is mine.
Is now a kid. Look, the picture of it. That's
yeah.
Now a child. He's reverted back to a child. You can't.
And what am I supposed to say if I drop a bad word and I got my son in the chat? I can't really deny it now.
He just like pops in the screen, just like looking at you.
All right. We will see you guys later. Go Broncos. Bye-bye.